Real-Time 1960s presents Evening Report, a complete roundup of today's news with Joe Rubenstein.
Good evening. In Mississippi, the search for 3 missing civil rights workers continues. In Vietnam, departing Ambassador Henry Cabot Lodge sees progress. In Massachusetts, Senator Edward Kennedy recovers from a deadly plane crash. New requirements on cigarette packaging, and Jim Bunning pitches a perfect game. Those are the headlines. The details after this message.
What gives Tareyton the taste worth fighting for? Just this. There's a difference you can see in the filter. It makes a difference you can taste in the smoke. Tareyton has a white outer filter and an inner filter of activated charcoal. Fine granules of activated charcoal in pure cellulose. And the charcoal filter works with the white filter to actually improve the flavor of Tareyton's fine tobaccos. So get the charcoal filter with a taste worth fighting for. Join the unswitchables. Smoke Tareyton.
Us Tareyton smokers would rather fight than switch.
Tareyton from the American Tobacco Company.
In New York City Thursday, the parents of 2 missing civil rights workers appealed for assistance in the hunt for their sons. They said they also spoke for the mother of a Negro youth who was also missing along with their sons. The missing are Michael Schwerner, 24 years old, from Brooklyn, Andrew Goodman, 20-year-old Queens College Jr., and 21-year-old James Cheney, a Negro from Meridian, Mississippi. The 3 disappeared last Sunday near Philadelphia, Mississippi, after being arrested for speeding. On Tuesday, FBI agents, acting on a tip, found their burned-out station wagon in a swamp off State Highway 21 in Neshoba County's northeastern corner. On Thursday, Mr. and Mrs. Robert Goodman and Mr. and Mrs. Nathan Schwerner held a televised news conference at the Goodmans' Manhattan apartment. Mrs. Carolyn Goodman opened by reading a statement.
As a mother, and as a parent of one of the 3 boys who are missing, I am making this plea to all parents everywhere, particularly to the parents of Mississippi, who, like myself, have experienced the softness, the warmth, and the beauty of a child whom they cherish and love and want to protect. I want to beg them to cooperate in every way possible in the search for these 3 boys, and to come forward with any information of any kind which will help in the search. I cannot but feel that parents, no matter what their beliefs, no matter what their views, value their children above all else, and therefore will understand and share our concern.
The Schwerner statement, read by Mr. Schwerner, also called for public assistance. At this point, however, virtually all hope has faded for the lives of the 3 young men. The comments of civil rights leaders and private remarks by federal investigators all indicate the general belief that the 3 men are dead. Yesterday, one FBI man said off the record, quote, "We're now looking for the bodies," unquote. James Farmer, National Director of the Congress of Racial Equality, said today there was complicity on the part of many local officials, quote, "in the reign of terror which grips Mississippi," unquote. Mr. Farmer added, quote, "I have reports that the 3 missing civil rights workers were not released, but were turned directly over to a hostile mob by the sheriff of Neshoba County," unquote. Farmer said Mississippi authorities are calling the disappearance of the 3 young men a quote-unquote publicity hoax. He said Sheriff L.A. Rainey of Neshoba County had told him the missing men were probably, quote, drinking beer in some bar in New York, unquote, a supposition Farmer hotly rejected.
To suggest that 3 dedicated, committed young men, like these 3, could intentionally pull something of this sort, or that the organizations with which they are working could do it for the sake of a headline, is sheer, unadulterated nonsense.
This week, Governor Paul Johnson Jr. protested the massive influx of civil rights activists into his state.
The hardcore of this group are your beatnik-type people. Long beards, strictly nonconformists, some of them that you would call weirdos. That is your hardcore group. These young people come down here this summer with good intentions, and I'm sure that they are quite sincere. But they do not realize that they are following a group of professional agitators, men who are hardened to life, men who have got police records, people who have been in trouble and turmoil and strife all of their lives. Their background speaks of it. You can see it in their face. And therefore, if I were a parent, I would discourage my child from participating in this movement because of tragic consequences that could be faced by that youngster. We are not going to tolerate any group from the outside of Mississippi or from the inside of Mississippi to take the law into their own hands. We are going to see to it that law and order is maintained, and maintained Mississippi style.
In Greenwood, Mississippi, several white businessmen echoed the governor's sentiments.
I think probably a lot of them who've come down here actually have good intentions, but they just don't realize what the situation is down here and how well we get along together. And in effect, they are probably going to destroy good relations between the races down here.
In most cases, I think we have a group of 18, 19, possibly 20-year-olds coming in as experts to try to help us in our race relations. And I wonder what their experience has been and why they feel that they are qualified to work in this area at all.
You know, I read not long ago where J. Edgar Hoover said that the Communist Party had infiltrated a good many of these civil rights organizations, and of course that's been part of their platform for years, to stir up strife between the races. That was in the Communist Party platform way back in 1928, and now we've put it into our civil rights bill.
Last night, on a special NBC TV program about the crisis, Mrs. Carolyn Goodman spoke of her son.
You know, we've been talking about Andy. We've said many things, and he has many different characteristics. But one thing I think we said, that he has beauty. And you know, the world needs beautiful people.
The disappearance of the three workers has apparently not dissuaded young activists from joining the effort in Mississippi. This afternoon, the New York offices of both CORE and the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, which are both operating in Mississippi, said they had been, quote, barraged with calls from volunteers, unquote, over the last several days. Yesterday, Henry Cabot Lodge concluded 10 months of service as U.S. Ambassador to South Vietnam. He is being replaced by General Maxwell Taylor. This afternoon, Lodge left for Washington to join the campaign of Governor William Scranton of Pennsylvania for the Republican presidential nomination. Earlier this month, Scranton, a moderate, launched a long-shot bid to wrest the nomination from conservative Senator Barry Goldwater of Arizona. This morning, Lodge told a Saigon press conference that he did not see the war in Vietnam as a partisan issue, noting that politicians of both parties had participated in the commitment to South Vietnam's struggle against the communist Viet Cong. Lodge was asked if he would accept a draft for the Republican presidential nomination.
I cannot be drafted. I did not resign this post, which interests me very much, in order to come back and connive at being nominated. I can't. It's what I said. I mean, I resigned to come back and help Governor Scranton because I think it is a tremendously important duty for one who has given as much time and attention to the Republican Party as I have.
When asked how the Vietnam War would end, Lodge replied, quote, "It will end when there aren't any more Viet Cong insurgents. That doesn't mean that they're all dead. It means they've decided not to be Viet Cong anymore. And the reason they decide not to be Viet Cong anymore is that it's too dangerous. They're liable to get killed. It will be too nice not to settle down in some nice village somewhere, eat rice and pineapples, and raise pigs, eat ducks, and enjoy yourself," unquote. Earlier this week, President Johnson reaffirmed his commitment to the war in South Vietnam.
Our people in South Vietnam are helping to protect people against terror. They are also helping, and they will help more, in increasing agricultural production, in expanding the medical help, and in building a sense of hope for the good people of South Vietnam. They are helping, and they will help more. to give confidence to those who seek to help themselves, and modern equipment to those who can use it, and friendly counsel to those who are giving leadership.
I'll have more news for you after this message.
Honey, I've been thinking about retirement.
At 35?
No, I'm just planning ahead.
What do you mean?
Well, I was talking to our life insurance man today, and he told me that when I retire, I can get paid regularly from my own policies.
That's wonderful.
I thought so.
And you'd still be alive, of course.
Yes, that's the nice part of it.
How long will you get these payments?
Well, he says the life insurance company will pay us the same amount every month as long as either one of us lives.
Really?
Positively.
And you've included me.
Well, you're my wife and all.
Your only wife. I'm unique that way.
That's funny.
What?
He says life insurance is unique. It's the only way you can guarantee retirement pay you can't outlive.
Unique. Your wife and your life insurance. I think that shows what a really warm human being you are.
See your life insurance agent. He's trained to help you make the most of your policies.
Here again, Joe Rubenstein.
A top military doctor expressed satisfaction this week at the condition of Senator Edward Kennedy, Democrat of Massachusetts, and said there would be no need to encase Kennedy's broken back in a plaster cast. Brigadier General Henry Murphy, head of the Walter Reed Army Hospital in Washington, made the statement after visiting Kennedy at Cooley Dickinson Hospital in Northampton, Massachusetts. The 32-year-old senator was taken there June 19th after the crash of a private plane that took 2 lives. The youngest brother of President Kennedy was injured when the 2-engine plane crashed in an apple orchard in Southampton, Massachusetts. The pilot, 48-year-old Edwin Zimney, died in the crash. 41-year-old Edward Moss, an aide to Senator Kennedy, died about 7 hours later. Senator Birch Bayh, Democrat of Indiana, was also injured in the crash. On Wednesday, the Federal Trade Commission announced a new requirement that all cigarette packs, boxes, and cartons carry a warning that smoking is dangerous to health. The new policy will take effect January 1st, 1965. A similar warning will be required in all cigarette advertising beginning July 1st, 1965. The FTC's decision was based on the findings of a special committee formed by the late President Kennedy. At a press conference in January, Surgeon General Luther Terry announced the committee's findings.
Out of its long and exhaustive deliberations, the committee has reached the overall judgment that cigarette smoking is a health hazard of sufficient importance to the United States to warrant remedial action. This matter is considered of such significance and such importance that I do not believe there will be any foot dragging in terms of exploring what actions are appropriate for individual agencies and departments.
This afternoon, the tobacco industry withheld comment on the FTC ruling. On the New York Stock Exchange, prices of tobacco issues took moderate to sharp losses. Sports, right after this.
According to the National Safety Council, 4 out of 5 accidents happen within 25 miles of home. That means while you drive, even short distances from home, you're vulnerable to maiming accidents, even death. So every time you get in your car, do this. Put the key in the ignition, adjust the mirror, release the handbrake, and make it a habit. Always buckle your seatbelt.
At Shea Stadium Sunday, 32-year-old right-hander Jim Bunning of the Philadelphia Phillies pitched the first perfect game in the National League in 84 years. Bunning retired all 27 New York Met batters, not one of whom reached base by any means. The Phillies won the contest, the first game of a doubleheader, 6-0 before 32,904 fans. From the 7th inning on, Bunning had the crowd virtually 100% behind him as he toiled in 91-degree heat. In the bottom of the 9th, tension in the ballpark reached its absolute peak. First up for the Mets was shortstop Charlie Smith. WOR-TV's Bob Murphy had the call.
This crowd is absolutely holding its breath. High pop fly. This one is playable. The shortstop Bobby Wine is in foul ground. 1 out.
Next up was George Altman. The count quickly went to 0-2.
In 56, Don Larson wrote the history of the game of the perfect game of the World Series. 2 strikes to count. Struck him out. Jim Bunning is 1 out from a perfect ball game.
The last man standing between Bunning and baseball immortality was rookie John Stevenson, another left-hander pinch hitting for the pitcher. Again, the count went to 0-2, but then Bunning twice missed the strike zone.
Now it's 2-2. Not only is Bunning after a no-hitter, he's after a perfect ball game. Striking out! A perfect game! A perfect game for Jim Bunning! Here come his teammates! Oh, what a happy scene for the Phils and Jim Bunning!
The last National League pitcher to hurl perfect ball was John M. Ward for the Providence Grays against the Buffalo Bisons in 1880. However, many rules have been changed since that achievement. In 1880, the distance from pitcher to batter was 45 feet. The distance now is 60 feet 6 inches. Also in 1880, it took 9 balls to gain a base on balls, and a batter was out if a foul ball was caught on the first bounce. The Phillies now trail the National League leading Giants by just a half game. In the American League, the first-place Orioles lead the Yankees by 4 games and the White Sox by 6. And that, for this evening, completes our look at the latest news on this Saturday, June 27th, 1964. Thank you for joining us, and have a great day tomorrow.
This has been your Evening Report, a roundup of the latest news with Joe Rubenstein.